life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey listeners, welcome back to the Roadshow for another Men of the Men's Book interviews. These are men from Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4, transcended men, real stories, who wear their authenticity and their hearts on their sleeves, owning who they are and being who that is. My guest today is Certified Spiritual Director, Coach, and Enneagram Practitioner, Matt Segebartt. You'll find Matt's full bio in the show notes. So welcome to the Roadshow, Matt. So happy to have you.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
We had a bit of trouble getting here between tech issues and all the rest, but
yes.
Yeah, we're here now and we're good to go, right?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's just start with your understanding of the concept of transcendence. I'm learning that everybody has a different idea of that, so I'm eager to hear what you have to say.
Sure. I appreciate you starting there in the sense of, when I was asked to be part of this book, the word transcendent made me feel like, do I belong here? Because it's an evolving thing, right? So I think that's probably my definition is transcendent means the continuing process of change, with maybe the added, I'm doing this on the fly here, but the added dynamic or the added thought of a goal in mind, spiritual things. So transcendent has to do with that focus of being interested in the divine. What's more? What else is out there?
Mm-hmm. I like that, and I've certainly heard about the spiritual piece, that it is a growth and an ascension spiritually, and then other people, it's more of just that ascension for them. So go ahead.
Well, I want to be quick to add, spirituality doesn't mean religion, right? It's that meaning of life kind of conversation.
Yeah. Which is really, really, is a good conversation to have, especially around transcendence, because I think it kind of takes us to a different place, a different level of awareness, consciousness, all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah. So, why did you want to write about it for yourself?
I think the opportunity to write is an opportunity to share story. I felt called to do it. It's interesting the timing in which you called me to ask, hey, would you be willing to do this? And I know through mutual friends and things, it happened the way it did. But I feel the alignment in that, and I literally, a couple months before that opportunity came, I was like, I feel like I'm ready to start writing a little bit on this. And so it almost just felt like, okay, this is the next thing. Do I consider myself an author? I'm a wordy person. I'm a verbal processor, but am I an author? I guess I am now. And I have enjoyed journaling and a lot of different things, but the opportunity came and I thought about it. As you know, I spent some time pondering it and I just felt like the timing was right. So I was like, okay, I'll write.
Perfect. And what was your experience with the writing itself? I know, for some people it can be quite cathartic and healing. So yeah, I'm interested in your take there.
I'm a both and guy. I'll admit that sitting down to write, I did it multiple times and nothing came. And I started to have some anxiety around, what have I done? I've committed to write. How do I quantify, and I've had this fantasy that if I if I articulate something well enough, if I'm in a conversation with somebody, or if I'm doing a podcast interview, or if I'm journaling, if I write it well enough, then I will change the minds of the masses, and suddenly peace and tranquility will prevail on the planet. And I realized I had to let go of that when I was sitting down to write the story. I just had to find the peace that was the moment when I felt something shift in me. And when I got clear on where was the significant shift, then I literally wrote, I mean, with some minor tweaks, but what you have in the book is a one sitting writing session, if that makes sense.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, you know, I've heard that before, and I've certainly experienced that as well, that it's almost a release that, you know, for me, that creates that shift. And yes, out it just pours. Yeah, love that. Love that. Certainly, I admire people who can sit down and just keep writing and writing and writing and writing, but that's never been my experience. Yeah. So, do you assume that some of that was channeled? Just curious.
Ask that a different way. You know, we have different faith backgrounds, so I want to be sure I'm understanding your question.
Okay, so are you do you have any sense that that they are the words that you were being guided to write?
Was I in the flow, for a way to put it? I think so. I'm always, and this maybe gets into the Enneagram realm just a little bit, but one of the things I often do is I look at things from both sides, and then I get a little lost in that sometimes. And so, yes, I was in the flow, and I found myself also feeling, am I telling my own story, or am I telling someone else's story? And one of the things I've been really cognizant of and wanting to be super careful of is, and again, in the book, you know, you'll see, but there's individuals where I want to be careful not to tell their story. And so I was aware of that. But yes, I felt like I was in the flow, and I was also really careful. I hope that I was careful, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, that piece about telling your story and not telling someone else's, even though, you know, we're connected to all kinds of people relative to our own story. I think that's really helpful, and I don't, you know, for certainly people in our lives, but I think it's helpful for us too. You know, I don't think it improves our writing to, you know, kind of to talk about somebody else's piece of whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad that you wrote it. It's a great chapter, a really good chapter. And I love the, you know, I love the difference between what life was like before and after. And we'll use that transcendence in, you know, in whatever way it shows up. So I'm wondering if you will share with us the, what's different now? What's different for you now, in you now?
You know what's coming up, honestly, is what's different for me now is that I'm willing to be a part of a book like this. And what I mean by that is I'm aware that the 24 other authors all have very different experiences than mine. And there would have been a time in my journey when I would have distanced myself because I would have had some fear around perception and what will people think of me if I'm part of this complicated and diverse group of people. But one of the things that I do feel, you know, use the spiritual language you want to, that really spoke to me when I was considering being a part of this book was what I love about my new life is that I get to be genuinely curious about everyone's unique perspective and journey. And I love story. I love hearing what people, excuse me, have experienced, and just ask questions about it. Well, tell me more about that. And I don't wish to be negative in any way, but I'm very aware in my conservative Christian background, one of the inner dialogues that I often had was this idea of filtering someone else's story and editing it in my own mind. Like, okay, they're saying this, but somewhere in the conversation, I should redirect them back towards whatever I felt was, appropriate to a theological belief structure or something like that.
Right.
And what's different for me now is I have released myself from the need to do that in any way. And I still, to be honest, it's in my DNA a little bit. So I have to be cautious of it. I have to be aware of it. Mm-hmm. But I love the freedom, and I love some of the new relationships that I have with just profound, interesting people who have experienced life so different than me. And I call them friends. And there is something magical and beautiful, and I would say transcendent, in that kind of existence that is far less controlled or contrived.
I love that. And I love it because it really is more of a focus on acceptance, not just of self, but acceptance of everyone else.
Yeah.
I love that. So that on its own, though, so it feels really good to you. How is that impacting your life? Because friendships, you've spoken about friendships, but in your work, what's kind of the broader picture of that? And I'm going back to some of the things that our cohort here, Scott Holmes, talks about redefining masculinity. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Again, my story is, within the last few years. So some of it is still new. I mean, even as you and I talk, new things are coming up, and so two things to answer that question. One, when you asked me again to be part of the book, I think you'll remember one of the things that I said to you was, hey, part of my story is I'm gay. Is that going to be a problem for a masculinity book? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember that, but it was something that came up for me in the sense of I want to do full disclosure of what my story is. And your response was without hesitation, of course, right? And it was a new layer of me realizing some of, again, my stereotypes about what do people think masculinity is or isn't, right? And how do I participate in that conversation in a meaningful way? And so there was that. And then I guess the other thing that comes up in that question is I feel profoundly called to be a bridge builder, a peacemaking bridge builder. And what I mean by that is my unique personality. I am a sensitive guy. I'm an Enneagram 9. I want to see things from all the angles, and sometimes in my desire to see all the angles, I lose myself in that process. And I love the way that God, universe, call it what you will, has made each one of us with our own unique fingerprint. And I don't necessarily mean that literally. I mean it figuratively, like our experience, our perception, our family of origin, our, attractions, our interests, our hobbies, there's so much diversity. There is no other person on the planet the same as you. There never has been, and there never will be. And when I get to bridge build with people, whether it's a bridge between their own soul and their family, for example, or their religion, or the things they thought they had to do or be in order to be accepted. Because I think everybody has their own version of a coming out story, Some of it's as simple as, well, I dye my hair, For some people, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, I need you to know that I actually have, you know what I mean? I've been presenting as this. We all have it. We all have some version. And so I guess to answer your question, I feel that I get to be present in my own personality, my own existence, and I get to help people bridge build from the stories they've been telling themselves, the stories that they've felt forced to accept, whether they were supposed to or not. Um, and to find the freedom in letting them realize, me being me is actually a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that light come on and have them realize that God made them, whatever your definition is,
Mm-hmm.
you were put on this planet to make a difference. And when you are present to yourself, you can be so much more present to the people around you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did I answer the question? I feel like sometimes I talk. Yeah.
You did. No, that was great. It was a
Okay.
weird question, so yes. Um, yeah, you know what? I want to just go back to the masculinity piece, because what we're doing in this book is we are redefining what it means just to be a man. It doesn't, it's going into who we are. It's just
Mm-hmm.
being exactly who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's not male or female. It's just who we are.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I love that. I love that reference. And yes, if you're being yourself, I agree with this so strongly that if you're being yourself, you can impact those around you to be themselves too. And I love how you call yourself a bridge builder.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What could be better for one of your clients, or family or friends than to have that relationship that is as accepting of someone's wholeness, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I find that people in the atmosphere of acceptance, and being seen are so much more likely to heal. But the layers of guardedness that we all carry around, if you know this about me, would you really love me? Would you really accept me? And one of my sadnesses is in particularly conservative Christian realms, we talk a lot about grace, but there is a culture of ungraciousness that shackles people. And it's this paradox, this irony of healing comes from being seen and loved and accepted. And there's literally a barrier that is potentially there, that at least in the people that I interface with, my clients, the work that I now do, when I begin to see some of those walls crumble, the freedom that I see in people's eyes, the healing that I see, and that I am so profoundly blessed to be able to participate in and be present with. You know, almost every day. I mean, it's this life is a complicated melange, right, of things. But I'm aware of a lot of the grief from my life, and some of the people that I've lost. And that's been one of the harder things is people who have in one way or another excused themselves from my life because they can't, they're not willing, or they're not able, or whatever's going on with them. Mm-hmm. That's been a very difficult thing. But almost daily I have this feeling of just joy, unspeakable joy, that where I find myself going, okay, it's worth it. The journey that I've been on, it does matter, and it does make a difference. And to wake up in the morning and be like, okay, today's going to be a good day, and to be fully present is such a gift. And I want to help other people navigate their way through that. And it doesn't take a day or a week. It can take years I felt good. I read somewhere that a full deconstruction process takes the average of about 12 years. And I read that like a year ago, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm only 7 years in.
This is a long road.
This is a long road. The reality is it's a lifetime. It's a lifelong road. It's not, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm glad I'm on the road. And I am both aware of the joy and the pain of being on this road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of all comes, right? We can't kind of pick and choose which pieces we take.
No.
It's I'm glad that you're on that road too. We're honored to have you in the book, absolutely. And as I said earlier, your chapter is amazing, and someone will read that chapter and relate to it and resonate with it, and even knowing that it's not just like that and your life is going to change, that there is a process and there is that path and that journey that we all have to experience. I think that's really useful to know, and to know that you've been there and that you understand it, and that you're still there, to whatever degree, right? You are. Because I don't think that, in this world we come in a certain, we come in as who we are. The truth about ourselves is there. And then we get shackled by a lot of the expectations that are placed on us, and we could talk about that forever probably, but so to break out of that, I think, is very brave and very courageous, and yeah, so I congratulate you.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about the work that you do with your clients. I think that people are going to want to hear about that. So jump in.
Like I said, I refer to myself as a peacemaking bridge builder, whether I'm meeting with an individual or a couple. And then I am not certified yet in teaching Enneagram. But I have been studying it for the last few years, and part of my story is connected to the Enneagram, and I'm trying to summarize briefly, but I was sitting in a class, and when they were using language around Enneagram 9s, it was a profound moment for me to realize that's what's been going on with me. Because one of my big hurdles or moments of shame, is I've had people say, you lied to us for years, or you lied to me, or, why were you hiding, and not to justify, but it was really helpful and healing to me to realize, I was lying to myself, because I put what God and what others thought was the right thing ahead of what I myself was feeling. And so I never actually interacted with those dynamics. And so when I'm meeting with clients, whether we talk about the Enneagram or not is not vital, but it is that journey of, and I can use biblical language around this for some of my clients, because I think a lot of my clients are those folks who maybe have a Christian background, and they're realizing that they want to expand it in some way. Now, to be clear, I love meeting with all kinds of people, no matter what your faith background or no faith background. I hope you're comfortable with me, and I'm comfortable with you. But I do feel like my demographic probably falls somewhere in that category of folks who might be deconstructing in some way or another. And really just repeatedly sending that message of, you are created beautifully. Again, scriptural language says, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. While you were still in your mom's womb, you were being crafted. And, I have 3 kids. Their little personalities were present before they showed up on the planet. You know what I mean? I mean, when they were in mom's tummy, you just could tell the feisty one or the relaxed one. And not that you pigeonhole anyone, but that dynamic of, we truly were created uniquely. And so when I sit with clients, that's honestly the message. And whether I hear, whatever story I hear of relational difficulties or, self-acceptance difficulties, there's people who carry, pretty amazing stories of complexity, things that they have struggled with. And I just enjoy story, and I enjoy building a bridge between what people have experienced and then kind of the what now. Where do I go now? What do I do now? How do I reconcile where I'm at now? And, I mentioned this in the book, and I know, we're not going to say too much, but one of the, if not the most difficult thing for me, was realizing that what if what I was taught, I'm an ordained pastor in the church that I grew up in, I have a religion degree, what if what I was taught, particularly in the area of, sexuality and queer LGBTIQA acceptance, was wrong. I wasn't looking, in fact, I wasn't looking. Let me back up and word this a different way. When I realized that my viewpoint was limited and not fully informed, and that what I had literally been teaching to the harm of other people was not fully correct or not correct, that was very painful to me. And so when I sit with clients who realize that some of their belief structures don't hold up in the light of real human stories, of real experiences, and they superimpose their view of morality, there are people born into very complicated situations where there is no script. There is no clear biblical or otherwise roadmap for what do you do. And I appreciate the honor of sitting with people and saying, how fantastic that you were unique. How fantastic that this is the, we say when, a plant, I mean, I love to garden, right? I have plants. I'm sitting here looking out at the Columbia River, and I've got my deck with plants. I feel so blessed to just nature and everything. But when a plant isn't doing well, you don't change the plant, you change the environment that the plant is in. You know what I mean? And I think we as humans are exactly the same. We have this desire with our kids or with whoever to, like, I'm going to make you into this. Well, if you get put in the right place, in the right setting, with the right atmosphere and the right, metaphorical amount of water, and you are going to flourish, and it's going to be beautiful, and you're going to contribute beauty to the planet. And that's what I get to do. I get to sit with people and be like, what kind of beauty do you bring? And how wonderful that you are unique. This may be an odd overshare, but one of the things coming late to the gay community, right? The things that I've wanted to do or felt like I should do is be aware of some of the media, for example, like RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, maybe I should watch that to understand, because it's kind of a thing. Well, in doing that, one of the things that shifted for me is, again, just the unique, amazing humans that, yes, there are painful stories of acceptance and non-acceptance and all of those things, but we all get to bring to the planet our own unique version of creativity. And I love that. I love being able to be with people in that. So
Yeah. Wow. That was awesome. I love to do that too. I think it's a beautiful place to be. It's an honorable place to be. And when you're doing it, as you have said, from a place of self-acceptance first, it's real and it's true and it's authentic. And I think people see that, and
Mm.
they can heal. They can heal from that
Mm-hmm.
kind of relationship, which is
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. And it all comes down to, I think, going back to what you said earlier, self-acceptance, pure
Mm.
self-acceptance.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the piece, about RuPaul, because yes, in some forums that would be unusual.
Mm.
But in reality, everybody is that unique human. And I'm really open to a world that celebrates everybody's
Mm.
uniqueness
Mm.
as well. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Mm. I know when I'm processing this interview later, there's a bit of me that's going to be like, why did you bring up RuPaul? Um,
It was good. I loved it.
it's a longer story of just acceptance, like you say. Like it's a training ground for the amazing uniqueness, and to be aware of my own judgments that I've had, and to work on fixing those and seeing people in their unique complexity, whether or not I experience life the same way. And so, that lesson to me is the profound one. I'm willing to read the book on whatever religion. I'm willing to read or hear the story of whatever experience someone is having, and then be aware of that piece in me that goes, whoa, that's not like me at all, you know. And how interesting that for you that's how you experience things. And that's why I bring it up, because it's that space of, if I believe that all of us are loved and worthy, just because we're human, just because we exist, we're worthy of love, then I have to deal with that response in me when I push people away because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I want to challenge myself and others to do, is say, wait a minute, how am I being judgmental of a person, whether it's their hair color or the way they walk around or the house they live in or the car they drive? We all have stories and reasons why we do what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I just want to add that the real beauty of that is that when we are in that place of love, and it really
Mm.
is unconditional, just
Mm.
accepting anybody with, whatever they're bringing to the table. We can't be in the same place as separation.
Mm.
We can't be in the same place as war, as
Yeah.
as poverty. We can't. I mean, that container
Mm.
of unconditional love is so powerful. And and the world can be really different with it, with
Mm.
people like you, and people who are in that space of acceptance and love. So
Mm.
awesome.
Mm.
Great stuff. So, is there anything else that you want to share about either your work or any other message that you want to get out?
Again, when I ponder this later, I'll probably think of 3 things or
Of course.
12 things. I appreciate you asking the question. One of the things this morning that I was just like, you know what? I'm going to just see where the conversation goes and be at peace with what's there. And so I just thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for what you're doing around this work and the book, and um, just the organized, peaceful, congruent energy that you bring, has really meant a lot to me during this time of becoming more open in my life. I mean, this is the second sort of public podcast that I've done, or interview that I've done, and I just thank you for the opportunity.
You're so welcome, and thank you.
Mm.
So, listeners, Thank you for being here. I want to remind you that this book comes out in August, early August, and you need to go and get the book. I'll just be real straight about that. Go and get it. It is powerful, really powerful. You've heard a bit about Matt's story. There are many other authors with different who come at this from a different story, but nevertheless, it is that sense of I want to say self-ownership, of being who we are. It's and I don't think that life outside of that, it can't be anything but difficult. So I'm very, very happy to encourage everybody to go and get the book, because it definitely will be changing lives. I have no doubt about that. So thank you again, Matt. Really appreciate you being here and being so open about your story. And thank you. Thank you.
Of course, glad to be here. So will you put in the notes, just my website is where people, if they want to get a hold of me, that's where they go. So it's just mattsegebartt.com. So.
Okay, awesome. Yep, and we will put that at the bottom of the live as well. So so people will have that to connect with you. And one last thing I want to just say to listeners is that just by being here today, just by listening, just by, whatever you pick up that you integrate in whatever way, or maybe there's nothing, but just by being here, you are kicking your own ass. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out, and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.